Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21 Hats podcast. I'm your host, Loren Feldman. This week, in part because I'm on vacation, and in part because I've wanted to do this for some time, we're offering a replay of an episode we recorded more than 2 years ago. It was one of our early sessions, and it was recorded shortly after George Floyd was murdered. In the episode, I asked Karen Clark-Cole, William Vanderbloemen, and Dana White to talk about how they viewed their responsibilities as business leaders at such a fraught moment. What, if anything, were they saying to their customers? What were they saying to their employees? It started as a conversation, but Dana took the lead quickly and powerfully. She talked about what it's been like to so often be the lone black voice in the room, including this one. She talked about what it's like for African American employees to come to work and wonder where their company and their colleagues stand. She drew a line in the sand. Why is it hard, she asked. You're either over here or you're over there. More than a few listeners have told me that Dana's words changed the way they view their responsibilities. Even if you've already heard this episode, I recommend listening again, especially given that business leaders are again being asked where they stand on social and political issues, whether it's about race or abortion or the climate or democracy. If you haven't already heard the episode, I can assure you that you will not soon forget it. Joining me on the podcast were regulars Karen Clark-Cole, who is CEO of Blink, a Seattle-based user experience research and design firm; William Vanderbloemen, who is CEO of Vanderbloemen Search Group, a Houston-based recruiting firm that works with churches and other faith-based organizations; and Dana White, who is CEO of Paralee Boyd, a chain of hair salons that is moving to Dallas. I've retitled the episode, You Take a Stand. I want to talk about where each of your businesses stand, what's going on with each of them. But we've been through a couple of weeks unlike anything I think any of us have ever experienced. It's kind of almost been forgotten, but I think we're still experiencing a pandemic. And then, of course, that has been compounded by the murder of George Floyd and the protests that followed. As we're recording this on Friday, June 5th, I think we've had 11 days of protests that have followed, and obviously that's had an impact on all of us. And I guess I'd like to start by just asking each of you how you're processing these events. Karen, maybe I'll start with you. Seattle, where Blink is based, has been in the news every night. There have been protests there. What has this been like for you and for Blink?
It's been hard. It's been a long week for sure. I don't have all the words, and that's
understandable.
That's been part of the problem. So I can tell you one thing that has struck me as an individual and a leader of a company that has been most surprising and difficult is that many of our employees, and if you include our contractors, we're about 140 altogether of people that do work for us in 5 offices. So we're not just in Seattle, we're around the country. A lot of them are expecting me personally as the representative of Blink to be their voice. And I tell you, that's not something that I expected. I wasn't quite ready for that. I spend a lot of time in my life personally having a voice and using it and having a platform, certainly with my nonprofit. And, for me, it's more of an angle of encouraging girls. But the idea that now I'm representing, how to stop racism and how to have a fair and just society. And, I just don't feel qualified to be fighting for justice on behalf of many people. But at the same time, I'm seeing it as my responsibility, like it or not. And so I'm, doing my best to rise to the occasion and to really listen carefully as to what people's struggles are in our company. And, of course, in the whole country and the whole world. We have a company forum once a month, and we used it on Thursday to talk about issues of race and justice, equality. And I tried to explain to people that it's incredibly difficult, and the responsibility is enormous for me to get it right. And so I was just open and honest with them about how, I need their help to get it right. And we're not going to get it right the first time. And then I asked them to remember that they all have their own voices and they don't need to rely on the company to do that for them. And I think a lot of them haven't seen that yet. They're young and they don't realize, at least this is all I can imagine, they don't realize yet that they have their own voice. Yes, you want to work for a company who believes in equality and mirrors their values. And that's really important because that's the only way we're going to get companies to change and therefore parts of society. But I'm encouraging them, get out there and use your voice. Like, they all have incredible power that I don't even know that they see they have. I've sort of switched my message to be less about let's figure out how the company can do it right and more about how do we empower our 150 people, because that's a lot. That's a big voice when you put them all together.
One of the things that I do want to ask all of you about is the notion that you addressed, Karen, of speaking out as a company, saying something. And I have to admit, I personally have mixed feelings about that. I certainly get why it's important for companies to especially let their employees know where they stand. But I got an email from Uber, and you know what? I don't really want to hear from Uber about this.
Yeah. So, Loren, I felt the same way on Monday when it hit me hard that was expected and it better be good. But I'm all for making a statement so that, because the resounding response I got from our employees, which was, this is helping me keep on, I want to make sure that and I think about my own self, like I want to be in a place that I know values my beliefs, at least at the macro level. So I'm getting it. We didn't send out an email, but I, there's a place where someone can come and find it. And I think that's the appropriate place. We post it on our usual social channels, but I agree. I don't think we should be pushing it into people's faces. They can, in terms of a company statement.
How about you, William? You happen to be in Houston, which is George Floyd's hometown. What has this been like for you and your business?
Well, Loren, I think the way you phrased that question is exactly how I have, for right or wrong, tried to think through this. What's this like for me and then my business? And, for me personally, the whole convergence of, a death in Georgia, a death in Minnesota, a death, it feels different this time to me, and has been a personal wake-up call to me and made me drop back and realize, I've had some really great Black friends and a lot of African-American clients. I mean, most of the large historic African-American churches are our client. But even with all that, I think I'm realizing this week, I thought I get it, and I don't at all. I got no clue. So that's me. And then you get to my business. Our business serves, whether it's a Christian school or a Christian nonprofit or a church, which is kind of the backbone of the business. Like, the church, when it's getting things right, has always been at the center of saying, no, you reach out to the other. There's like I saw a friend of mine post, we can agree to disagree on almost everything except racism. So our client base, if you want to move past me to the business side, really does expect to hear from us. And you mentioned Uber. Adrian, my wife, said, why is Lululemon emailing me about race? I don't like, it seems contrived. For us, it's not. It's a summons. Like, if I don't say something, then that is saying something. And so for us, in our very unusual circumstance, I wanted to wait. I didn't want to be presumptuous, and I didn't want to say, and look at all the great things we've done and all the wonderful African-American churches or Black gospel churches, or like, we didn't do any of that. So I put a statement out yesterday that was just, here's where I am. Now, I have an advantage. My last name is the name of the company. So if I send it out, it is the statement, right? And it's early. but I spent all day yesterday responding to people asking if they had permission to reprint, asking if they could send it to their staff, thanking me for admitting that I don't know what I'm doing and that I want to learn.
Well, how did you articulate that? What did you say in the statement, if you can summarize?
Yeah, I mean, I said, for starters, I haven't been a real Christian or faithful person my whole life. So there's a chapter in my life where I got pulled over by the police very regularly and for good reasons. But I never, ever once feared for my safety. I've moved into new neighborhoods and I've had people say, welcome to the neighborhood, but I've never, ever had someone come up to me and say, do you really belong at this pool? I go to a restaurant, I ask for a table. Usually I get a decent table, sometimes the one I want, but I've never had the recurring issue of like, why are they putting me back here? And, one of my closest friends, African-American, whose dad converted to Muslim during the Cat Stevens era. So he has a horrible last name and he's black. And when we go to the airport together, I just budget extra time because it's going to take a while. And that's sad. But, those are all things that he's really dealt with. And I guess I just realized, I don't get it. I don't get it. And that's where I started with the piece. I moved into, Mr. Floyd's death happened right at Pentecost in the church, which has Jewish and Christian roots. And I talked a little bit about that. And then at the end, I told a story. I tried to share places where I don't get it, like at the risk of spending 2 or 3 minutes. I lucked out and got to go to the Smithsonian Museum of African American History some time back, just on the fly at the end of the day, went by myself. I've never been in a museum where they don't have to tell people to be quiet, except this one. Because if you've been there, you go down the elevator to the basement and you start about 6 floors below the ground and you're on kind of a mocked up slave ship. And it's crowded and it's dark and the sounds are weird. And you make your way up and it's not overdone. It's not political. It's just real. And I remember getting past the Civil War and past slavery thinking, okay, finally things are going to get better. And I got to the segregation floor where you walk through a train car and right in front of me was this biracial couple, young couple with a little daughter, couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 years old, maybe 5. And we were walking through the train car and she looked at her mother and she said, Mama, where would you have sat? And the mother said, well, I would have sat up here up front with all the white people. And she said, well, where would Daddy have sat? And she said, well, Daddy would have sat back there with all the black people. And I'm listening to this in the back and I'm like, oh my God, am I really hearing this? As only a kid could say. She said, so where would I sit? Which is a great question. And the mother said, baby, it would have been illegal for Daddy and me to get married back then. So I don't think you'd be here at all. And I was just like, I don't get it. And I shared stories like that. I just tried to share where I am and be transparent and let the chips fall where they will. And not because it's right or my PR company said, oh, you need to start some listening sessions and start this and that. And I was like, no, that is not the point. And I know I've dominated the time with this answer, so I'll be quiet. But I'm just trying to share what's going on in my heart and hope that spills out into how the company reacts.
So Dana, obviously, this is different for you than for the rest of us. I suspect you're not learning things the way we are. You're not realizing things that you didn't know. This is something you've known all too much about. How has this been for you?
I'm stressed.
That's certainly understandable.
I'm stressed. Even on this call, I'm stressed.
Making you more stressed?
No, please don't. No, I'm on this call as I am in life. The only one. And that's not Loren's fault, or it's not that you designed it that way. And I wanted to be on this call because I don't have a choice, meaning I can't not be Dana on this call and in this life, nor would I want to be. As a company, Paralee Boyd is Waterford crystal clear. You walk into my salon as you have, and you're Waterford crystal clear. I've gotten backlash for my statement. I've had advice, maybe you shouldn't do that with the pictures on the wall. I have stood my ground and said, no. I have created a place for women that look like me to come in and see themselves reflected in every part of that salon. And I am unapologetic for it and will remain so. And all of my locations will do so. So if that tells you you're not welcome, that's on you. We are devastated by what happened to George Floyd, but we are not surprised. George Floyd has gotten more attention than everybody else because this is what America is. We don't have the luxury of not dealing with it. We deal with it every day. We don't have the luxury of, well, this isn't the time or the place. It's always time. Have I feared for my life when I've been pulled over? Yes. Has a gun been drawn on me because I left my blinker on too long? Yes. Have I been followed around the store more times than I care to admit? Do I have to tolerate the ignorance of people who are well-meaning? Absolutely. I'm stressed. You're right, William. George Floyd is different. You're absolutely right. Silence is compliance, as well as convenience is compliance. This is not about being comfortable. This is about you're either over there or you're over here. As business owners, you're either over there or you're over here. I'm sorry, Loren, that Uber sent you something in your inbox that you didn't feel was appropriate space. I'm sorry it's in your face. Don't defend yourself. You make a stand. You take a stand. I've gotten emails too. And I'm going to read you a snippet of one from somebody who is a business owner who drew a line in the sand. A snippet says, it is gut-wrenching that these things these things still need to be said, but now is the time to speak up and make it unquestionably clear. Black lives matter. We stand for love, equality, and change, and we reject all forms of social injustice, systematic violence, and murder. We stand in solidarity with all those working to rid our country of racism, and that is just one line. He took a stand for his staff, for his customers, and he's not worried about his revenue. That is a stand. So hard for people to say Black Lives Matter. They do. You're either over there or you're over here. And if you're uncomfortably and over here, ask yourself why. I'm stressed. I can't tell you how many groups on Facebook that I'm a part of, how many people find this so hard to take a stand. I'm stressed on this call because I face this call like I face the world, knowing that I am on here alone. It's no time to be comfortable. Was George Floyd comfortable? He wasn't comfortable. No, a line. And I'm very passionate about it. And if I'm making you uncomfortable, so be it. This is my truth. And I matter. As a business owner, I say what I say because I have over 19 young Black women looking at me and Black men. As a business owner, You have customers. You have staff that are looking at you. And it's okay that you don't know, but you let them know you're figuring it out. It is your responsibility as a leader. And yes, it's heavy. Yes, it's supposed to be. But you carry the best way you can. You empower their voices, but as the leader of that company, yours is the loudest. Heavy is your crown. And you stand for your customers and for their staffs. Because we're all looking right now. We're looking to see. I'm getting tons of text messages and emails. Did you see? They said nothing. Did you see what they said? And we are making decisions. That's how it's different for us. We are deciding who we deal with and how we deal with them. Because when faced with it, what did they do? How did they do it? There's no judgment. You all have done what you feel best, as I have done, and am saying what I feel best. Answer to your question again, Loren, I'm stressed because I face this call as I do the world, as a Black woman. I'm done.
Well, let me just say, I checked with you beforehand to make sure that you knew I was going to raise this and that you were okay.
Absolutely.
With my doing that. And I did that knowing that you would be you, that you would tell us what you really thought.
I'm smiling at you right now. I'm smiling at you. You can't see me. I'm smiling at you.
And Dana, I want to thank you.
Well, that's
I'm
where
sorry
I was
to
going
interrupt
to.
you, Loren.
I was
sorry.
just going to finish the thought that I think Karen wants to express as well, which is I think you've shown us a certain amount of respect, actually, by saying what you really believe, and we wouldn't want anything else.
Agreed.
Yeah. I said yes when you called me. I thought of not being on this call because I'm tired and I'm stressed. But I thought about it and I control how I'm on this call. I'm not on here. What would have stressed me out is to make you all comfortable. People ask me, Dana, what should I do? And I told my friends, go figure it out. And even as business owners, even in business, whether you're making a decision as to how to deal with race, or if you're making a decision on how to grow your company or making a decision on what paper to put in your printer, you might make a mistake. But you pivot and you move on. Don't be afraid to make a mistake in this. Just another every aspect of your business. Is this big? Yes. Should you get some counsel? If you can. Don't be afraid to make a mistake and be honest about who you are. You know what? I've talked to a business owner who's like, you know what? Honestly, I just don't care enough about Black lives to do or say anything. Okay. I don't agree. But that's his stance. He's wrong.
Let me ask you, Dana, with regard to the messages that have been sent out by corporations, my concern has been that some have just seemed insincere. Are you saying that it's better to address it any way that you can than not to address it at all? Is that the point that you're making?
Kinda. And it's hard because, you know, for some people it's enough. For others, it's not. Right. But I agree with you. Some of it is, you know, let's just get something out. You know, this pacifying, placating thing that is done. You know, George Floyd's murderer didn't get arrested because they thought he was wrong. They did it to pacify us. That's the same thing. Some of these companies aren't putting things up because they think it's wrong. They're doing it because, we don't want to be seen as. How many of these businesses are actually looking at who they are as companies, who we are as people, as leaders? So you're right. They did. Some of them I read and I was like, okay. I mean, they put up something, I guess. And for some people who read it, it's enough. But I haven't seen anything as powerful as what I've seen in the snippet that I read to you. That is like, he's water for crystal clear. It's amazing.
How are your employees doing, Dana?
From what I understand, they're, same thing, different day. But will they get convicted? Probably not. Lesser charge, get a slap on the wrist. That's what we're waiting for, what we know. We're waiting for what we know. They're hurt. They're upset. They're tired. But this is America. We know where we live. We know where we are. And we know what this country thinks of us, the people who look like us. And it was, I think, what made the George Floyd murder different for us was the officer's look in the camera. Every time I talk to somebody, it's how he looked in the camera, as if he knew he could do it. So my employees are, shrug shoulders, hurt, upset, tears, but we'll see. This is America.
Dana, I listened to Al Sharpton's eulogy yesterday, and I found it very moving. I think he, in some ways, made some points that you've made to us. He also said that he thinks this time is different, that he's more hopeful this time, that he sees signs that there might be change now. Did you hear that? Do you feel that?
I didn't hear the eulogy. I don't know why I missed the eulogy yesterday, but the thing that makes this time different, I love seeing the diversity in the protest.
That's exactly what he mentioned.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see it, but I love seeing the diversity in the protest. I think it makes it different going forward. I think we are years and years and years away of it not being okay, that it's never done again. Newsflash, there will be somebody else. There will be another George Floyd. There's that George Floyd was not the last Black man to die unnecessarily at the hands of white cops. This is not the last one. The change I see is the seed for the change to come, not the change what is needed now. No. And I'm hopeful, but it's not. This is the seed planted, right? And this is the seed that'll take root, but it still needs to grow, still needs to blossom, still needs to bloom, still needs to be fertilized and watered. But George Floyd, unfortunately, and I pray I'm wrong. Oh, that would be beautiful if I was wrong. I would love if George Floyd was the last one. But I don't. This is America. I'm watching the protesters. I'm watching the police. He won't be the last one. Racism is who we are. It's in our fabric. Built on it. And unfortunately, in my humble opinion, in my regretful opinion, he will not be the last. Unfortunately. I pray he is. God knows I do. I'm in love with a Black man. I have a Black brother. I pray George Floyd is the last.
I think you could tell from what Karen said at the beginning and what William said, and I would add myself to them as well, that we're trying to figure out how to process this. And I suspect a lot of the people who listen to this podcast are going through that as well. If you don't feel like you want this weight on your shoulders, I respect that completely, and you don't have to respond. But if you do have some guidance for us, some suggestions, especially in terms of what we as business leaders say to the public, what we as business leaders say to our employees, what we as business leaders say to our Black employees, I would welcome that. But again, this shouldn't be all on your shoulders. And
I trust you. I've always told you, I trust you. And so I'll say this. Don't be afraid to be uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. Growth and change is uncomfortable. And keep going and don't be afraid. When you are standing on the side right and it's uncomfortable, don't be afraid. And then if you get upset when you're uncomfortable, if you are uncomfortable because of what I said or of what you've heard or protesters, find the opportunity to grow and ask yourself why. It's okay to be uncomfortable. Therein lies the change, right? It's also okay not to know. I want you guys to be gentle with yourselves, but keep going. Be gentle. I've said that to everybody I've talked to who's like, Dana, I'm just not where you are. Well, you wouldn't be, right? It's like you wouldn't be where I am, right? That's a lot. That's all I can ask. But stop trying or don't try to initiate change or growth on your end comfortably, especially when it comes to race in America. And keep going. For those of you that have Black employees, for those of you that have Black clients, especially for those of you that have Black employees, please know that we're tired. Please know that if you, like I have been several times, the 1 or 2 or 3 Black employee in an office full of people that don't look like me, know that they are in their car taking a minute before they come to work today. And it is your responsibility to do all that you can to create a safe space. We are tired and they are nervous because they don't know what they're going to get. But you make it better for them when you make a public statement that says, not here. When you say to your clients, not here, we are on the side of human rights and Black Lives Matter in this place. Your lives matter. We see you. I love you. And you are enough. People don't say that. Nobody said it to me. I was so mad at Barack Obama for running for president. I was so mad at him because of what he put me in a position he put me in at work. I was very proud of him. But there was a side of me that was like, come on, Barack.
What do you mean by the position he put you in? Meaning that you had to defend him at every turn?
I had to answer for him. I had become the deputy of the colored in my workplace. Everything he said that made them uncomfortable, I had to say, no, he didn't mean that. No, he'll be your president too. No, because the alternative was to let them leave the break room thinking wrong. And I felt I owed it to that man to tell the truth or to bat away ignorance. So as business owners, for those of you who have clients and for those of you who have people who work for you, not people of color, Black people. People of color are not under the knee of the Minneapolis Police Department. Black people. Be very clear as to that line in the sand. Black Lives Matter, human rights. This is where we are on the side of human rights. I love you. I support you. And you are safe here. I may not have all the answers. I may not be eloquent. I may not know the right words to say, but I'll tell you what, not here. And be very clear. And it should go out. Should be private. It should be, well, if you want to see it. No, this is where we stand on this issue. That's why this instance with George Floyd is different, because it gives you an opportunity to take a stand. That's what you say to your staff. Please know that your staff is struggling, please know they'll never show you because they're not sure if it's safe. And even if it is, you are still their boss. You are not their friend. But they will note and remember what you did to make them safe. Your customers will remember what you did and how you stood. They will remember. They may not stop working with you, but they'll file it away. They'll know. That's it. Nobody's asking you to be eloquent. Nobody's asking you to be Reverend Al Sharpton. Nobody's asking you to be Jane Elliott. Just be clear. Crystal clear.
So I unfairly put Dana on the spot. I guess I'll do it to William and Karen too. After what we've heard, and we only have a few moments left. William, any thoughts?
Well, just that I don't know what I'm doing, and that for all the work we've done, to say that we're working toward diversity, we're hiring toward diversity, we're working with churches that I don't understand. I mean, that's the big learning for me, and we're trying to learn how to understand, and hopefully some good dialogue and intentional listening will help me and help our company. Because it's different. As a white guy, it's different this time. It's just different. I don't know why. Maybe God's doing something in my heart. And I know I'm getting spiritual on a business podcast when I say that, but maybe it's just something going on in me. And I hope to understand better and to take action that reflects it.
Karen, any thoughts?
I'm listening. I'm just listening. I'm listening to our employees, and I think what Dana said about creating a safe space is really critical. And so that's the one thing that I feel like I can do. And so I'm working hard at doing that, and then we'll see what we have to do next, or what we should do or need to do or are empowered to do. And but I'm listening.
As I said, it had been my intention to go around and talk to each of you about how each of your businesses are doing. Somehow that doesn't seem appropriate at this point.
I think we just summarized it, Loren. Our businesses are suffering. I mean, our businesses are made up of people. And so it's not like the business lives on its own, So I think Dana's words are exactly describing how, certainly everyone I come in contact with is feeling it's hard, and it's hard for me. And so I think that's exactly how our businesses are doing.
I guess I have a question. I've heard it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. I don't understand how it's hard. And it's not, I don't understand why it's hard. That's not a judgment question. It is literally I don't know why it's hard. I'm like, I don't know. Like, maybe let me ask somebody so I can get an answer. Not, I can't believe it's hard. Why? No, that's not how I feel. I feel like, I wonder why it's hard. It's hard. Like, I think both of you guys said it's hard. Tell me how it's hard.
I'm not sure how to answer it, honestly, but except it's the opposite of easy. I mean, knowing how to represent 140 people for me and making sure I don't screw it up feels hard. It's the weight of the responsibility, and it's I feel I'm really sad and disheartened by the whole thing, and that is hard. Maybe it's the word that I use, and it could be a different word.
I think maybe the question Dana is asking, Karen, is it hard for you to know where you stand? Is that what's hard about it? Or is it hard to articulate where you stand?
No, it's hard to believe, honestly. There aren't words for it in terms of the.
Yeah.
I just think it's hard. I don't understand why and it's too big of I don't want to, anything I say is going to sound like it's
not
big enough, but I just can't believe that this is how the world is. I think it's hard to me to get my head around it, because it's just not anything that I have any close. I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. It's not right. It's awful. And and again, none of these aren't the right words, but I'm just, all of it is just, it's the weight of it is hard.
William, were you going to say something?
I guess what's hard for me is to get my mind around what you've lived through. And I think that's what I'm understanding. It's not hard for me to understand what's going on. Our statement that I wrote, I thought, boy, William, if you really are realizing that you don't get it, then you better ask some opinions. So I sent it to several Black pastors that I'm good friends with. I sent it to my workout buddy who's, Black guy, and said, what do you see when you read this? Where are the blind spots? Because I've got them. I'm realizing it's a blind spot. And
I think that's a great question, William.
Well, and it's interesting. The one thing that several of them said to take out of the statement, I'd said somewhere, we have got to start reflecting behavior that will prevent things like the senseless lynching that happened. And all of them said, don't use that word. And I said, why not? He said, well, you say the word lynching, it's going to raise opinions and you're going to argue over this. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I'm using it because that's what it was.
I think it's great.
And
I think it's great.
And honestly, I get to use that word. And maybe my friend that's Black doesn't, because it makes him sound, victimized or whatever. But I get to say it, and it is what it was. So understanding where I am is really easy. Understanding how I learn what I don't know is the hard part for me. So I'm just trying to listen. And I know that sounds lame. I hope it doesn't sound evasive, but that is where I am.
I think Karen, you did it. I think you did it. You said, I think when you make a company statement, when you're trying to find the words what to say to all 100 and some odd people, you say, it's like being the pilot of the ship. You don't run back and say, oh my God, this plane is about to crash and I'm really nervous and I don't know really. No. You go back and you say, I can't believe this is happening. I am sad. Everything that you said, and I'm like, I don't see, she just said it. You did. I was like, I'm nodding with you. I'm sitting here smiling. I'm like, yeah, okay, you said it. And I think if you don't know what to say to your staffs, look at it. You are your company, right? And start there. And make the statement as the leader of your company. I am sad. This hurts me. I think when you tell them, when you share with them your struggle with it, you're giving them part of your struggle and saying, help me with this. And I think that's something you should do behind the scenes with people you trust, right? I think as a leader, my leadership style is I want my staff to see that I'm in the ground. I'm right there. I'm not so much strong, but I'm not changing. I'm right. You can lean on me. You can rely on me. I'm not, I don't really waver, right? Not saying you are. I'm just saying, so with me, it's as simple as this is it. And I think you said it. Like I was listening to you, and that's why I asked you, what is hard? And you said, what's hard is the fact that we're here. The fact that this is reality. That this even exists. I'm like, okay, write that down. Write that down. Write that down.
Well, I can tell you it's not really behind the scenes. In our company forum yesterday, I spent the first 5 minutes in tears and I couldn't even talk. Well, everyone watched me.
It's okay.
So
I'm not,
it's out there.
It's out there. But I think, as I'll ask any business owner that's listening, if it's hard for you to make a statement, this is this is easy. It's easy. And that's why I said you're either here or you're there. And you are here, Karen. And nobody's asking you to be eloquent. Nobody's asking you to be an orator. We're asking you to say, I'm here. Same thing with you, William. I mean, boom. You said, and I said when I watched George Floyd's video, I said they lynched this man on TV and video. It is a lynching. And that's it. It's lynching. I don't necessarily agree. We'll take that out of there. Well, why? It's what happened. It's not your opinion. It literally is what happened. They killed this man. I mean, they murdered him. You could say murder. You could say lynch. You could say strangled. You could say, but that's what they did. So if it's hard, look within yourselves and figure out why it's hard. Figure out, where do you stand? Watch the video. How does this make me feel? There's your statement. If you watch the video and your statement is, well, he didn't really die from that. He had some other health issues. What? Like, because that's how some people feel, right? If that's where, then that's where you stand. That's it. I think for some people, it's hard because, like you said, I've never had to deal with this. I've never had to deal with being a migrant worker. I've never had to deal with the issues they face because I've always been a citizen. But if I had migrant workers working for me and they were being mistreated, I would know what to say because it's who I am. And so that's what my question is. My challenging question for you, whether it makes you comfortable or not, to the listeners and to the people on the phone, is who are you? And find, and if it's hard, evaluate that. Evaluate. I have no problem saying to migrant workers, no, you are safe here. And I dare somebody to come and purely void looking for you. We don't have any, citizens or illegal citizens or whatever. We don't have them working with us. But if we did, I would say this is where Paralee Boyd stands with that. You safe here. But I do love the fact that nobody on the call was like, I'm just so worried about my money. I'm just afraid that clients won't do business with me anymore. And you guys, to me, it's clear. We may not be the UX company for you if this offends you. We may not be the service for you at Vanderbloemen if this is how you feel. Like, I think I heard that in both of your statements, and I think that's a great start. That's great. I've heard so many people, well, I don't really know. I don't want to offend. Okay. There's your stance. It's so quiet. Oh my goodness.
It's uncomfortable, but
yeah, I think the important thing is that hard doesn't, that doesn't mean shy away from it. That means lean into it and acknowledge that it's hard. I mean, that's how I feel. It's like, wow, this is hard. And let's push into it and uncover that. Yep.
And who am I? Like, why is this hard? Right? I know what the right thing is. I know I saw that video and I know that was wrong. And I can and then put yourself in your client's shoes, put yourself in your staff's shoes, put yourself in the shoes of anybody who can relate to that video. And then once you feel that, what do you say? And like I said, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be order. You don't have to be Jane Elliott, Al Sharpton. You don't have to be me, whatever. You can say, you said it, Karen. Like, that's why I'm like, oh my gosh, she said it. You did it. I mean, you did, right?
I think it's important to acknowledge that there are different degrees the different levels of being hard. Some things are really hard. Some things are incredibly hard. It can be hard to find the right words, but that's not the same thing as, having somebody's knee on your neck.
It can be hard to breathe.
Right. So this was in many ways hard, but not hard like that, and uncomfortable, but I think important. I think we all knew this would be uncomfortable going into it, but that was why it was important to do it. And I appreciate all of you being willing to engage in this conversation and deal with the discomfort and the hardness, especially you, Dana. Again, thank you for being willing to tell us what you really think.
Absolutely.
Amen.
I need a drink.
Yeah.
I need a drink.
Wait. Don't leave yet. If you have a question or a comment that you'd like the 21 Hats owners to address, send it to me by replying to your morning report or by email at loren@21hats.com. That's LOREN @21hats.com. Do it now before you forget. And don't be afraid to tell Jay what you really think. He can take it. And if you got something out of this conversation, help us reach more business owners. Tell a friend. Subscribe and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to The Morning Report at 21hats.com. This episode was produced by Jess Thuberon, founder of Blank Word Productions. Okay, now you can leave. Thanks for listening, everyone.